In this session we'll look at deleting directories. If you're not already in the MO3 L07 working copy directory, make sure you change your current working directory to the root of this working copy now. Doing our directory listing, our current working directory shows that we have, amongst other things, the remove me directory. This is illustrated in the working copy on the right. Also shown in the working copy illustration to the right, you'll see that remove me has files and folders contained within it. A simple directory listing on the remove me confirms this. And we can do a directory listing to confirm that there is nested structure within the remove me directory also. Many operating systems have specialized commands for removing directories. However, the Subversion client keeps life simple for us. The svn delete command can be used to delete any working copy path, irrespective of whether it's a file or a folder. In this simple example, we're going to use svn del, which is a short form for the delete command, to delete the directory remove me. Executing the command, we get some rather dramatic output. You'll notice that we've deleted not only the remove me, but its entire contents as well. All of the files and folders within remove me are scheduled for deletion, not just the directory we requested to be deleted. The illustration of the working copy on the right demonstrates what's actually happening within our working copy. Although the remove me directory, all of its subdirectories and the files contained within them have been scheduled for deletion, only the files have been physically removed. The directories remain behind. Using the svn status command confirms the fact that we have all of these directories marked for deletion. Using the operating system's directory command, we can investigate the directory structure, and sure enough, although all of the files have been removed, the directories remain in place. The directories remain in place because they contain the .svn directory. As we'll learn when we look at the working copy anatomy later in the course, these .svn directories contain a lot of information that must be preserved for the Subversion client to work. In particular, the .svn directory contains copies of all the files contained within the working copy. Consequently, we can't remove the directories themselves because doing so would disable commands such as svn revert from working locally. If we now commit the changes that are scheduled in this working copy, specifically the deletions that we've just seen, the Subversion client reports the fact that the remove me has been deleted. The implicit deletions that exist below remove me are not reported because this would be superfluous. Doing a directory listing of our working copy confirms the fact that the remove me directory has now been physically deleted from our file system. We can physically delete them at this point because we know that having committed to the repository, there's no further need for the working copy to maintain the metadata contained within the .svn directories. Showing a listing of the contents of our repository confirms the fact that the commit has removed the remove me directory from the repository itself. As we progress through the lessons on the Subversion client, it will become apparent that the Subversion client does everything it can to protect us from making mistakes and losing work. In this next session, we're going to look at one of the ways that the Subversion client protects us from our own mistakes. First of all, let's take a look at the status of the force me directory. We get nothing back. This means that the force me directory has no outstanding actions against it and no unversioned file within it. Doing a directory listing of force me shows that it contains exactly one file, file1.txt. For this example, we're going to create a new file within force me called file.txt. Doing a status command on force me now shows that force me contains file.txt and it's an unversioned file. You can think of this in terms of software development as a user having created a series of source files but has not yet informed Subversion that they should be added. They subsequently revisit their working copy, decide to delete the directory, forgetting that they've put all of the source code in there. We'll run the svn delete command on force me. Now, we know that force me contains an unversioned file. When the Subversion delete command is attempted on a directory which contains, for example, unversioned files, we receive the following warning. This warning informs us that file.txt contained within the force me that we're currently trying to delete is not under version control. The Subversion client refuses to delete the force me directory because it contains files that it doesn't know what to do with. However, it does inform us that we can use the force option to override the restriction. Having been informed of the fact that the force.me directory contains an unversioned file, and having decided that we really do want to get rid of the force.me directory irrespective of this unversioned file, we'll reissue the delete command using the force option. As with all commands, the force option tells the Subversion client to ignore any warnings that would normally stop it from completing the command. In this case, the warning that file.txt is not under version control. And sure enough, when we execute delete with the force option, it continues and informs us that it has deleted the file1.txt, which you'll recall was a version file, and the force.me directory itself. It tells us nothing about having deleted file.txt, but rest assured it has done. As before, the force.me directory itself is not deleted, and the reasons for this have been explained. Obtaining a directory listing of the force.me directory itself reveals, however, that all of the files within it have been deleted, including the unversioned one. This is why the subversion delete command informs us of the fact we've got unversioned files in a directory, because deleting the directory implicitly deletes all the files contained within it, whether they're versioned or not. A status command run on the force.me directory confirms the fact that force.me has been scheduled to be deleted, along with the file1.txt that's contained within it. If we try to undo our deletion using the svn revert command, we're informed that in fact force.me has been reverted. A directory listing of force.me reveals the fact that the file1.txt has still been physically removed, and looking at the working copy illustration to the right, you can see that it's still scheduled for deletion. The subversion revert command has done precisely what we requested of it, and has informed us of the fact that it has reverted force.me. In other words, it has only unscheduled the deletion of the force.me directory itself. In order to restore force.me and its contents, we need to use the depth option. In this case, we're going to use depth equals infinity to restore everything. There are a couple of notable points about this revert command. First of all, we've requested a revert with a depth of infinity. In other words, revert not only the item that I'm pointing to, in this case the force.me directory, but everything within it. Secondly, we're reverting something which has no action scheduled against it. Recall that we've already reverted force.me once before, so force.me has no outstanding actions. We're reverting something that doesn't actually need reverting. But because we've used a depth option of infinity, the Subversion client continues to search the force.me directory structure for things to revert. In this case, it encounters the file1.txt and reverts that. Repeating the directory listing of force.me reveals the fact that file1.txt has been restored. The important point here is that the file.txt that we created earlier, the unversioned file that we confirmed that the Subversion client should delete by specifying the force option to the delete command, has been lost forever. Subversion does not track unversioned files at all. Consequently, when we revert the directory, we can only revert those files that were version controlled in the original. The file.txt, being an unversioned file, is now lost. It's been deleted by the delete command and cannot be restored by the revert command.